Okay, my friend, we have to start this week at the Etihad, the big game of the weekend. Manchester City hosting champions Liverpool in a game where two big teams chasing down Arsenal at the top end of the table. I think there was a lot of anticipation as to how this one would go, who'd get control, or Manchester City too reliant on Haaland, or Liverpool playing their way back into form after that, impressive win against Real Madrid, the Champions League, and the win against Villa. I'd have to say, Rob, in conclusion, it was very one-sided. I thought Manchester City went about their business. They had the game face on. I thought they looked like they meant business. And I thought they blew Liverpool away in football, in energy, and in work rate.
Yeah, you've said most of the important things there, Rob, and I think... wow, it was such a strong performance from Man City. I thought the atmosphere in the stadium, which we've criticised before a little bit. Sometimes Etihad, it's not bouncing week after week. Brilliant atmosphere. I think City are playing now, Rob, with a hunger, with a quality, which is the main thing. I guess both of those are important, but the quality of the football, Rob, I think was outstanding. And Liverpool, maybe had a little early press early on, but realised that, and Arne Slot said it afterwards, that Man City's use of the ball, their ball possession was so good, that's what made the game hard for Liverpool in the match. So we all know that Pep's teams, when they're at their best, we've talked about it many times, Rob, is when they're moving that ball accurately, and they're not making mistakes. They're not getting turned over, to expose the back line. Their football was superb. I thought you said it on the show, Rob, in terms of their setup. They're different now. They're not rolling a fullback into midfield. They're not doing that. Right now, the Pep kind of plan is fullbacks wide on both sides, two centre-backs, and then everybody floods into the middle. Literally everybody. Nico Gonzalez is the holder, the number 6. But you got Bernardo Silva that's apparently next to him in midfield. But it's him, it's Foden, it's Doku, all rolling into midfield to make it a nightmare. When they're moving the ball quickly and there's that many players, and Cherky's coming in there as well, it's the other player to add into that mix. I mean, that's difficult to stop, and Liverpool couldn't stop it.
Just to that point, Rob, let me just pull you up on it, because I think it's a really important point. As I was watching the game scene, it's not the same formula with De Bruyne and Gundogan, and it's a little different than that, isn't it? It's not quite the same setup that was. It feels like this is a little bit different.
Yeah, I think so, Rob, because that was very much a 4-3-3. This is not.
Yeah,
this is not. Exactly. That was very much a 4-3-3.
So is this him making the use of what he's got, and also maybe going through a transition? Is there a stage where this group of players might get to that? The next iteration that we saw Man City play in a different way, or has the game moved on in some respects?
Well, it might be that it's moved on a little bit. It might be that teams now have figured out 4-3-3 pretty nicely, and they know what Pep's kind of old stuff was. Like the old stuff for Pep was 4-3-3 and 2 out-and-out wingers. And he's still done it, and he probably will do it. But when you've got Cherky in the team, Rob, and you've got Doku, I mean, Doku is a winger, but he played in. He played in a little bit. Sometimes he's wide, but he's mostly in. That's different to have Doku, who, by the way, I'm sure he'll get a lot of mentions in this little section, but my goodness, what a performance from Jeremy Doku in the game. So his positioning, Cherky's kind of quality on the ball. You've got Foden playing well, Cherky playing well, Bernardo Silva that always plays well in terms of possession, moving the ball around. And when that's going, it's a nightmare. Can you imagine trying to stop all those players who are good on the ball and the big man up front waiting for through balls, waiting for anything to come through? So that was quite a strong statement. I know that you talked about the statement after in the show, Rob, about that from City. We can say things like they're back. 1,000th game for Pep. He's found another iteration of this club and this team and different ways of playing. And the most important thing, Rob, is that the players there now are playing at a level that you would expect. Foden, Cherky, even Nico Gonzalez, the fullback. O'Reilly was great. And how about Nunes at right fullback, Rob?
Yeah.
There's Nunes, the kid they got from, who looked awkward as a right back. Pep talked him up as being a good right back, and he looked it today, mate. He played really well.
It's interesting you say that, Rob, because I was reading. There was a line after the midweek game when Phil Foden was excellent, got a couple of goals and against Dortmund, and he was talking about, I think we're getting back to some of the best Phil Foden. He said he looked like mentally and physically he's in a good place, and he said a really interesting thing, Rob. He said I'd like to feel that Foden's back, And then at the end of when he was speaking, he said, "And I'm back." And I thought it was a really telling thing that, like, maybe it's took him 10 games to get his head around. Maybe, you know, the transition and not having the De Bruynes and all that, you know, he's had to work it. It's almost felt like something's regenerated in him, Rob. And I think we saw that in the way he performed today, and he was at it again. He was on the touchline. Maybe that hunger that we talked about, that we kept saying, is the fire gone out a little bit? I think today showed us it not. And today, you know, closing the gap on Arsenal, you know, he chucked one out where he said, you know, I think Arsenal could win the title, but, you know, will they have the nerve to stay in the game? Just starting to have a little poke.
Yeah, and it's you know, what you can see now, Rob, as well. And I always with Man City, and it's not a popular opinion or people talk about it much, but they've got no injuries now. I think, or maybe one. I think Mustoe Kovacic, Rob. They got, and I always, you know, and injuries are sometimes blamed by people. Sometimes it's like, well, you shouldn't worry about injuries. Everybody has injuries. The facts are, if you have too many of your best players injured for a long period of time in this league, it does make a difference to how you do in the league standings at the end of the season. And Pep's team is pretty much injury free. It's confident. Players are playing in form. They're going to go on a run.
Yeah,
I think there's a run coming now. You know, whether defensively, Rob, they're as secure to go on a run that's going to win the title from here. We'll wait and see. There is a ton of games left, and of course, we're not sure how Arsenal's going to go longer term. But it's looking like they're really on track with very few problems in the squad.
Just to that defensive point before we just talk Doku and then move on. It was interesting, Rob. Again, Ruben Diaz was rested in the Champions League. John Stones played. Today, Diaz plays, Stones rests. Gvardiol's next to him. It looks like, you know, Arke's available. Looks like he's managing those minutes and making sure that he's got, you know, one of his stellar centre-backs there, maybe not playing them both together on too many occasions. Yeah.
And of course, you know, we go back to when he's got a full squad.
Yeah.
There are a ton of rotations, and you had Savinho come on, you got different... Savinho came on, didn't he? Oscar Bob, I'm thinking of as well as another forward. You got Marmoush come on to the game, Rob. You know, you're looking at good options now across the whole team, and you know, I think it's a big if, but they need to stay fit, Rob. If they're going to have a real challenge up, if they get 3 or 4 injuries, I think it really knocks Man City. But when they're fit and healthy, and in this kind of form, and the momentum building, they're gonna get going. I tell you, they're gonna pick up some points.
The anomaly, I suppose, the big question is with the Club World Cup. How's that affected them? We might not know what that till after Christmas in terms of, you know, time off, rest time. Maybe Pep's trying to manage those minutes now with that coming up. I think we've just got to spend a minute on Jeremy Doku, mate, because he's somebody I think who I'll talk personally rather than talking for you. That at times frustrates. You know, we know he's got ability. Sometimes the end product's not quite great. It's a bit rushed. You know, you just like a little bit more patience and quality. I thought today, Rob, every time he got the ball, he was incredibly positive and he made something happen.
Yeah. And that's not easy to do, is it? You know, this level, right, for a player to pick up the ball and almost every time dribble past players, he was a constant nuisance. And by the way, Conor Bradley, you know, when it was one-on-one,
Junior in his pocket in midweek.
He's just had Vinicius Junior. I mean, you have to feel for him to have these two players in the last few days, like running at him. And he did a fair job. But even so, I mean, Doku was... I mean, I've always been a fan of him, Rob. There was just a moment, there was like a little period where he wasn't playing a lot, getting rotated in and out. You know, we did talk about end product and his numbers and assists and goals. But, I mean, that little wiggle he's got, the Dogu wiggle where he wiggles his backside and he moves inside. He did it for the goal. I mean, that's such a great asset to have, a player that can beat players and create things. And Doku now, with his smiling face, he picks up man of the match, you know, with everybody else's form. I mean, that's looking really good. He was outstanding.
Can I just, again, chuck him one at you, because you weren't in the studio this week, obviously watching from home. But isn't the life of a wide player for Pep and Man City kind of a bit inconsistent? I'm trying to think of Sane, thinking of Mahrez. I'm thinking those players who've played there, in the way they play and where you're getting it, it's hard to be consistently good all the time, isn't it? And Pep's always rotated them a little bit. Like we say, oh, Mahrez not playing this week. Oh, Sane's not playing. Oh, this one's not playing. Oh, that one's not playing. He very rarely sort of plays the same wide people all the time. Now, whether that's to affect the opposition, whether that's just change chemistry on the pitch, you know, so in some respects for Doku, just as a defence, it might be like, Well, with Pep, he knows he's going to be 2 or 3 games, and then Savinho's going to have his little go there.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's different, isn't it? I mean, when we played and stuff, and from our experiences, like we just got into a routine of being in the team at that spot. Game in, game out. It must be odd. It's something that we never had, mate, did we? We didn't really have that kind of rotation. You were sort of in the side. There was a couple of times that Brian Robson come to me and said, "How'd you feel?" Like you played a lot of games midweeks. But other than that, you're either in it or you get dropped. But it's different now. And I think still people are still getting their heads around that. People do get rested, rotated, and it's not about dropping players a lot of the time. But no, he was excellent today, and whoever plays, they've got good options. And I think Rob, when a team starts winning, everybody seems to start playing better. Do you know what I mean?
All looks better, doesn't it?
It all looks better.
Nico Gonzalez almost looks a player now, and it might have been before.
Yeah. Can I just say one thing, Rob, before we move on to Liverpool?
Yeah.
And I don't know whether I'm being Mr. Negative here, but wouldn't it be typical in our sport and in our league? International breaks upcoming. These 115 charges. Our understanding is it's getting really close to something getting announced. Wouldn't it be blimmin' typical that Man City and the club and the fan, everybody feels great, starting to feel great, and we're going to get something dumped on our plate in the next couple of weeks that's going to, because it feels the longer this goes on, something's pretty serious going to happen at the end of it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And
am I just being a negative Nelly there, mate?
I think you feel like the international break will be a time when it could be announced, and then obviously the repercussions are going to be huge. The media's going to be over it, and then
changes everything.
We'll
changes
see.
Everything for the club if something comes out.
That's something
negative.
we're going to have to wait and see, mate. And no doubt we'll have a special podcast on Manchester City and whatever happens on the 15 charges. So let City enjoy the break for as long as the break goes on. A team who won't enjoy the break so much is Liverpool, Rob. I thought it was quite. The ball's just dropped off. That's. I don't know, tackling somebody's tackle. The ball's just dropped off behind me. Let's talk about Liverpool, because I think that was quite alarming, Rob. That was as disappointing on a big day as I've seen Liverpool for a while. Flat, lacked energy, lacked real purpose in their play. Front three couldn't affect the game. Got overrun in midfield by the shape you've talked about. And Rebecca, we know how Bex likes to get us down the road. 5 defeats, 8-point gap are Liverpool still in it? And I said, listen, Liverpool still can have an influence on what happens. I'm not sure Liverpool can win the title for me, mate.
No, they're out for me. They're out of it. I think didn't I hint this at the last loss?
Yeah, I think we said, didn't you, 5 or 6?
I think I said
nobody can win a title with 5 or 6.
They've got 5 already. I mean,
they've won 6. They've lost 5, Rob.
God, blimey, yeah. Plus 1 goal difference is it? They're sat, kind of 8th place in the league table right now. I think the alarming thing, back to your comment there, Rob, was I don't know, between these two, you expect a little bit more energy, a bit more fight. Maybe, the majority of this team, the Real Madrid performance, it was the same team, wasn't it? I think, that's hard to go again on an emotional day in the Champions League. Yeah. It might be now that Liverpool are gonna feel good about the Champions League. And they're gonna be excited and bring the energy to that, and a little less so in the Premier League, because this wasn't the same kind of energy that you'd feel as a club that feels like it's got to win every game to win a title. Yeah. It didn't. It struggled with lots of things. I thought the back line struggled with Man City's forwards throughout the game. Wherever you looked along that line, Ibrahim Konate had a bit of a nightmare. Struggled. Was trying to be a little bit too cute at certain times. I thought they struggled with all of Man City in midfield. And it was. I mean, it was. I think I expected a little more. I'm not surprised at how this game went. I would have had Man City as favourites to win it.
I did,
But I thought they'd be a little bit tighter, and Liverpool would give Man City more headaches, more problems, ask more questions defensively, have a few more attempts at goal. It was the one-sided nature of the game. I sat there watching. I'm like, this is going to be comfortable for Man City, and ended up being very comfy.
Let me point you to an important moment in the game. Virgil van Dijk has a header from a corner, Rob, that goes in. Andy Robertson was in offside position. The goal was ruled out on the field. The linesman flag went up, was ruled out. We went to VAR, and they followed the same line and said that he was offside. The line was, Rob, that he was affecting in some respects, affecting the goalkeeper's ability to play the ball. Now, we were told you have to be in the direct line of the goalkeeper for that to be.
Well, there's two. No, there's two. And there are two parts, Rob. The one part is if the guy's offside and he's literally he can't. Well, the goalie can't see the ball.
Line of sight. Yeah.
That's one part of it, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
The second part is if he affects his ability to play the ball.
Well, in fact, it didn't. The wording actually said, Rob, it was more to do with being directly in front of the goalkeeper of the player, which is a slight sort of spin on whether he affects the ball. And I know what you're saying, because my initial thought was Andy Robertson's right there. The goalkeeper can't dive sort of forward towards it. He's affected by it. But the more replays we saw when we saw it in terms of the law, the goal should have stood.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's quite tight because, and I agree with you, right? So I feel the same way, but I am quite tight on, could the goalkeeper, if Robertson wasn't there, would he have dived forward at the ball? And he might have felt he would have bumped into the player.
Moved his feet a little bit, just a yard
which affects his ability. Which affects his ability to play the ball. If he can't dive where he wants to dive. Now, whether because he was there he dived. Now, again, I'm saying all this. I'm only being devil's advocate because I think if I examined it, I think probably he's far enough forward in a way that
isn't that the job of VAR then, Rob? That's the point I'm making. Shouldn't VAR have come to that conclusion?
Well, they suggest that they did, didn't they? They were either the line of sight because they said no, he's affecting his ability to play the ball. It's offside, and it was cancelled.
But I don't think watching it from behind.
No, I agree
that Donovan was in any way unable to get where he wanted to get because of Andy Robertson.
I think so. Yeah. So I agree. So I agree that it's a mistake by the officials. Yeah. But I think it's a tight one.
I was the same. And
it's subjective.
To be fair, Tim was very good on it. And I was sitting next to him and I said, no, look how close he is. And Tim said, no, as a goalkeeper, I can see the ball. I can dive where I want to get to.
Could he dive forward, though? That's what...
Well, but he said there looked enough distance between them.
Yeah, I know.
But I think it was hard done. And it's interesting because... Would it have changed the game? I don't actually think so, Rob, based on what we saw today. And, obviously, City went on to get a couple of other goals. But that will be something that on the slot, that will be, that they may look at. But apart from that, as you say, Rob, there was lots of people who didn't turn up in a big game, which is a little worrying. Florian Wirtz in the team, Rob, and I know how we're slightly, on the slots trying to manoeuvre him into the side. We're not getting enough from him, Robin. No. And I understand, he's a young guy. I understand he's talented. I know he's coming to a new league, but not getting enough from him in a game like that to warrant him starting.
Yeah, no, I agree. And listen, we ain't the sort of people, Rob, that jump at the opportunity to hammer players. We try and be a little bit more thoughtful about settling in, the age of him, the speed of the league, the intensity. You give him a fair chunk of games. I think 11 games in now is a good time to have a little initial assessment, and that would be that he's been lightweight. Yeah, he's been lightweight. His little moves, and he's very, very talented player. But when you get lent on by some of the players in the Premier League, he sort of gets pushed off the ball a little bit. That skill and that ability hasn't shown itself in terms of really clever through passes or goals and assists. So it's been a struggle. And I think Ekitike was quiet today, Rob, and we're both fans of this player. And it would, I'm not, and again, I don't want to jump on this, but it's like, I think at some point, if you're a Liverpool fan or an owner, you might want to think about the recruitment people that have spent a ton of money, and Rob Edwards and Richard Hughes are the gurus in the recruitment of this football club, and they've done brilliant work in previous stints at the club or in different football clubs. But I think right now you can ask questions a little bit. Alexander Isak, we all know, is a little fragile. He's sometimes, as it looks amazing, then he's out for a little while. Wirtz was a very expensive signing that struggled to make an impact in the first team. Kerkez has struggled a little bit too at left back, lost his place in the side. So, for the first time, I think the football club, whether it's the fans or the board or the owners, will say, well, guys, that was a lot of money we gave to make this team better. And you've gone for two players in the same position that are expensive. And could we have used one of those fees for other areas? So again, I don't want to be the guy that jumps on.
Something, wouldn't he?
Jumps on. But
I hear you, Rob, but I have to say, playing slightly devil's advocate, when that business was done, it's the reason I went, well, that's Liverpool, that's their title. It was always said that's what Sir Alex did, go and improve when you're winning. I mean, I suppose the other spotlight might be Rob in that respect. Then Arne Slot. Was he too quick to try and get some of these players in? Now, again, listen, he's a great manager. He's won the title but last season when he didn't have to have the integration. So I look at Kirkes as a great example. Now, I know that relationship between Andy Robertson and Virgil van Dijk has been built over a number of years, and they trust each other and know each other. Now, I'm not saying that Andy Robertson's a better player than Kirkes. Maybe Kirkes' potential.
He was struggling, Rob. Robertson was starting to struggle.
He was starting to struggle. But when he took him out, the struggle came on Kirkes as well as Van Dijk. So you created a bigger problem than you had at the start. You've got Ekitike, he starts scoring goals, and then you still continue to bring in Alexander Isak. Yeah. The big thing with Isak, then he comes into the team, he's not scoring goals. So do you keep playing him? Ekitike comes out, it goes a bit colder, he starts scoring goals, and now they've created themselves a bit of a problem when if they would continue to win with what they had, and Robbo played 3 or 4 or 5 games, and then he said, you know what, Robbo, out you come now, Kirkes have a little look, or I don't know, and it's devil's advocate, and it's been wise after the event, but was there a because the signings are so big and there's so much money spent, did Arne Slot feel he had to get those players in?
Rob, I remember saying it at the time. My doubts at Liverpool was too much change. Too much change to a champion team. Like I remember saying 4 or 5 of the outfield could be different. 4 or 5 of the outfield. That's a lot of change to champions. So back to your question, Rob, I think there's been too much change. And I think you could see, obviously, there's some parts of it were forced change. More attackers. The Trent thing. Luis Diaz is interesting. A huge fan of Luis Diaz, and I don't know the rumours around his age and the contract that he wasn't getting paid much and he wanted more money. Whatever this, I mean, I've been ripping it up for Bayern Munich.
You see the goal he scored last night, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean, incredible.
So I don't know. Again, it goes back to lots of change, and one thing kind of affects another thing. The existing players didn't play so well, but they can turn it on. And they turned it on against Real Madrid, and everybody's saying they're back. And this is, it's just, I think there's too much change and too many issues now. And Arne Slot is going to start to face a few doubters, Rob, and a little bit of intensity from those at the club and the media. You know how it goes. I really like him, but I think it's been difficult to keep the expectations or to satisfy the expectations with that much change. But I don't know. Maybe we'll change our tunes after the next game, but that's a lot on them. But it was a big disappointing performance that puts them at 5 losses. That for me takes them out of the title race.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long, and for even more Premier League content from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.